Hi, this is Timothy Darrell Young, BS MPA, um, tortured targeted individual. Um, I can't help but think I've gotten some tries at sort of getting a hard egg feeling to your brain, which is as close to not thinking and synthetic telepathy that I can get to. Um, I'm getting used up as a human capital in a synthetic telepathy agenda that is domestic terrorism, an international phenomena, and involves electronic harassment and remote torture. RNM, remote neural monitoring headgear, as Kevin Christian describes, and is available at www.openbci.com. It's used to make my brain a receiver, and then the senders of my consciousness have been unknown since my brain was deep captured for torture, trauma-based mind control, and usury. Or if I'm even using that word correctly. I became a TI in grad school in 2004. Gosh, uh, there was a young man whose father was a lawyer in my apartment complex who I'm pretty sure became a TI. The intelligence outfits and those with this tech took him from his family and made him a TI. Romola D, she everyday concerned citizen. She's a really exceptionally great um, person in TI. I was reading up on some of the tactics that the TI are denied constitutional rights or ability to organize. They'll fake like images of a TI with another to get fights in between the two of them. Misdirection with people. It happens to me wherever I go. I'm in an outpatient facility in Hillsboro, Oregon. LifeWorks and Sequoia Mental Health, and I'm pretty sure they're deep captured by electromagnetic form beings during these events and disclosures. I'm being distracted by NLP every 15 to 20 seconds. That's been more or less consistent every uh, qualitative and quantitatively more or less consistent for 15 years. Um, a one percenter in conceptual thinking, big picture thinking, is a child, and reading comprehension, top 1%. Was in like talented and gifted for being a really good reader and big picture thinker. My dad emphasized education, so that's what I did. And my wings got clipped in 2004, and I've never stopped being tortured, more or less. I mean, there was like a break the other day just so they get it on film. Some of the stuff reading over what I last wrote, what I was being misled at speed of thought, every 15 to 20 seconds, out of 1,600 EMF perp senders doing secret neurolinguistic programming Satanism, directly like punching a word into my skull with this tech. There's been like 1,600 of them, maybe 2,500 EMF beings, including street theater, like Joey Gibson, the guy that's in Portland press today for allegedly being the leader of the Proud Boys. Some of the people in my synthetic telepathy are like, that's an electromagnetic form perpetrator. That's not really Joey Gibson. That person can't be killed. There's no crime that he's not really going to jail, kind of shit. Like, and these guys are sitting in the sub reality around the nut house here, playing me for a fool as a blue state Democrat, like trauma based mind control specifically to trigger psychotic response, white nationalism, racism, discrimination. Just how many ways can they slice me down before I eventually get Zoog streaked? And I'm trying to execute like a 20, 30-year stratagem of living a life as a long term TI. It was mostly political. Uh, why I lost my Constitution, my Bill of Rights. Um, presumed protection from your home intelligence community, the NSA, presumed not getting set up for crimes you don't commit by the FBI or um, and such and so forth. So every day is a struggle for me. I get trauma-based mind controlled every like 15 and 20 seconds and tricked into saying things that I don't mean or wouldn't be. I've had a behavior-based mind control where for like self-defense and out of trauma-based mind control, I aim to humiliate. And then it could be individuals indiscriminately. And what I'm trying, like in error, and I'm trying to humiliate the maybe 5,000 monitors at this point who've been senders using secret neurolinguistic programming, electromagnetic form perps, trying to suicide me like from remote locations. And then all these psychological operations, domestic psyops, and then international implications going on in Oregon as a state. And then the electromagnetic form beings outside my home, inside my home, who've taken over Sequoia Mental Health and the website onceandforall.com, the number 4 happened to me. Um, my friend Billy, he was a deep state target. His dad was on the Metro board. Um, that was announced in my R&M. My friend, another friend of mine who's changed his name, he was made a TI and tortured and exhibited similar trauma-based mind control behavior outcomes. Um, Kevin Christian, the Georgia targeted individual, is doing a good job trying to educate people about perp I've seen a really great African American guy that was trying to educate people about the tech. It's indiscriminate. And then at the same time, for racial tension, I mean, these EMF beings can assume the form of anybody. And that's what's happening in and around Oregon in a national thing and an international context too. But how do I put this? The incentive for these people that can they pass out on those machines and they're in gangs. The electric core. All these people that work for like the federal government and the gang stalker apparatus that are hired to like ruin the life of a TI around the clock and other stuff. They can be any form they want within programming, and they're passed out safe on those machines. They can't be killed in their current form. And the incentive is, if you're like committing a crime or doing something horrible, the incentive is to show up as the person you would want to take the hit for. And so my perps have wanted to blame Jews so much it made me want to die. So many NLPs trying to blame Jews so it wasn't Jews. They tried to do a misdirect on a reflective surface that I caught to catch the broadcast, trying to misdirect to MI6. It's not MI6. They tried to misdirect to a black man and use NLP to set them up for a patsy. And they played me at speed of thought in the last like 15 days, trying to say I got misled at speed of thought to think all of these, and there's many ethnicities and there's many different gangs in the electric core, and they can be any form that they want. And the community-based agents who, dialed the hit out on me 15 years ago, and I've never stopped being tortured, more or less. I mean, every day. And then all the other TI were systematically denied ability to organize. Like, we don't have bills of rights. We don't have the Constitution. Like, emergency rooms won't serve us. We get poisoned. Community slander campaigns. Gang stalking is designed to stay out of the courts, stay out of the prisons. And there's an international synthetic telepathy agenda. I'm just looking out the window if you wonder what I'm looking at, by the way. I got a nice view. I often think of the portal exits allegedly at and after moments of death if you avoid the white tunnel of light to get out of incarnating in the system where I got polluted. I came in too advantaged in addressing things that would have gotten me standing up to the man at the halls of higher education over the tuition issue, and then made a TI because I, how do I say this? Well, that's okay. So I was just talking about this recently to the broadcast who I want to end, but the black Swiss cheese hole informations I received when I was a child in the Middle East. I hadn't been polluted by the intelligence agencies like this. If you were going to take mercy on the human form as a child, and it was front-loaded precog information with how to get it out of what's been proven to be a billions to one fake reality. And these electromagnetic form perpetrators with the headgear can show up as anybody they want, and the incentive is if you're like they're committing crime, like my perps are, or the perps in my head are trying to tell me that Joey Gibson's not that's an EMF perp. You know, he won't go to prison or anything like that. That's all psychological operations. Um, and yeah, so 1,600 EMF perps, like walking around like Joey Gibson, but in different locations with the intelligence community, secretly doing neurolinguistic programming into my head to long-term Zoog streak of a TI. So, and then so I'm degraded, used at speed of thought to humiliate a blue state Democrat in a 50 to 75 year, I would say, repeated pattern trajectory of history of like this happened in Russia, or this happened in Germany, like except now with this tech, like it's artificial psychopathy, sociopathy, and even narcissism worked in there. I'm trying to avoid false positives, but those people running around like the Joey Gibsons of the world that really can't be killed in their current form and aren't held legally responsible for anything because they're not the real person before you. And some of the allegations about that guy on my perp. These they're in the sub-reality EMF broadcasting totally exactly the same as Kevin Christian. And then my aunt's tortured in LA. My mom has tinnitus. My dad may have had a remote control induced stroke. My whole family's targeted by these criminal synthetic telepathy games that like Dr. Horton describes in an international context. In the intelligence community is going after good people for like standing up to the man. And then this stuff that just happened recently in the press with the perpetrator synthetically telepathic cult gangs speaking in double tongue in the press. And I understand it because it's happening to me at speed of thought sometimes, like before, you know, the press, you get the news the next day. So, and then my shit's getting taken at speed of thought. Anyways, I'm similar to Kevin Christian in that I don't have a Bill of Rights or Constitution. And the intelligence community has expert torture packages destroying my quality of life every day. I have no invisible NSA home protection that you miss when it's gone. I have hostile EMF soldiers in and out of my home. I have no right to organize with other TI in particular. And then, like, I get fake news, dredge reports to go with psychological operations that don't happen with fake people that aren't the real ones in front of you. And any single monitor, as Kevin Christian describes, can appear as a voice in his head, can be his wicked ex-girlfriend as an EMF broadcast, like two-dimensional, ethereal, few-color reality, where they're like JPEGs having sex with each other in the corner of his room. Like that's it's like standard COINTELPRO, some of this stuff. I try not to take it too personal, but my situation is not much different than Kevin Christian in that I have no Bill of Rights and Constitution or home protection, and I'm tortured every day. But my position's not much different than like Romola D in that I cared about public affairs and other people's stuff. My position's not that much different than Dr. Horton in that I had to destroy my own rape codes by creating a device with N52 level magnets placed outside my sphincter to deter monitors from living in my rectum for torture. And for them, they were really living in my rectum. Rectal torture, eugenics agenda. like maybe it was one of Kevin Christian's interviews, picking up some other TI. She was talking about like how it'd be hard for anybody besides TI to understand that a broadcast consciousness who's on one of those machines, openbci.com machines, passed out in another location, a monitor consciousness was living in her nose. And for that monitor, they were really living in her nose. And for her, it was torture. And such and so forth. So, I'm not that much different than Todd Giffen, who is a TI that he's in the, he's still synthetically telepathic, but he was disclosing about this technology as high as the office of the Navy, and said something he shouldn't. And to Honorable Senator Ron Wyden, who's doing the best he can. He said he's something he shouldn't have in a misdirect just to probably get him in prison. But I don't know. I'm not that much different than Todd Giffen in that I was trying to expose this synthetically telepathic crime. And I'm in the Nut House, the outpatient mental health facility for the slow kill, exterminated, electronic, tortured, non-consensual synthetic telepaths who are getting the senders from like the Joey Gibsons of the world, who are, this is militarized. They're often other locations. They can't be killed in current form, and the incentive is to be as obnoxious and provocative and political provocateur type bad acting as the person you want to take the blowback for the behavior. So out of like all of the maybe 5,000 people who've probably been lied to and then asked to pull out a hit on me, I got so played by it's a Nazi. I'm getting Nazi perp. They're trying to blame Jews. They're trying to blame black people. They're trying to blame MI6. They wanted to blame Mexicans, and then I said some stupid things in a tweet, thinking that was actually true for a moment. It's EMF perps. They can assume any form they want. Federal contractors that are trying to destroy the life of a TI. It's not like the Mexican community. I'm so tortured by everything in NLP every day. I say things I don't mean, and I get tricked into anger and aim to humiliate, and it's all being recorded by the secret surveillance to long-term Zugstrig stratagem on a TI. So I had exit instructions, precog memory, recurring dream about the black portals allegedly after death in the Middle East before getting polluted by like all of this stuff. And I am polluted by it. I say mean things that I don't mean. I'm tricked into racial tension issues on trauma-based mind control, synthetic telepathy, neurolinguistic programming, for aim to humiliate racial tension, to exacerbate racial, aim to humiliate like everything and me and everyone, like, and then I think it's funny, and then like racial tension, divide and conquer, corrupt and rule, and it's hard even just getting through a day. So I'm being used and abused and even like tortured into white nationalism. And I'm a blue state Democrat who went to college and knew better, and I don't even have time to think wisely because every 15 to 20 seconds I'm tortured, more or less every day. No Bill of Rights, no Constitution, no NSA home protection. I'm still getting broadcast. I'm similar to Heavy T, another Stay Strong targeted individual, and a lot of other people that are getting beat up for like excuses for torture and exploitation and human trafficking, even at speed of thought. And that sound in the background you hear, I have baby monitors that allegedly make the people doing NLP into my head because of the feedback system or whatnot. They have to hear their own neurolinguistic programming. So like that University of Washington website press release of this tech that's being used for Satanism, they're passed out of machines and then their consciousness is transferred to here as like a monitor, as Kevin, exactly as Kevin Christian describes. It can assume the form as a person. It can stay in the EMF sub reality around here. It's sped up faster than normal consciousness, and it's used for all kinds of raping and pillaging and plundering of normal 3D life. They have like a 360-degree view. I sort of maybe look more like a two-dimensional JPEG like everybody else to a monitor's consciousness because they're in the sub-reality and pirating off consciousness itself. But um, I want to try and live like the next 20 or 30 years, and I want to diffuse my aim to humiliate. I was tricked through this torture to be like in favor of world death. It was so unreasonable and not true, and I'm just being used and abused. And the humiliating thing is that I would have died, likely by trauma-based induced suicide. Unfortunately, the world would go on, but the non-reincarnate, if there is anything after death, I think if you can transfer your consciousness to a monitor consciousness like Kevin Christian describes, like EMF perps do and EMF beings, that the likelihood of consciousness existing after body death is that much greater. And my exit instructions on the portal black Swiss cheese holes was given at a time when I was pure as a baby and not polluted by this world, or NLP for 15 years, or BCI set for um, political reasons, like uh, a long-term Zooks. My monitors have an aim to humiliate me. They have an aim to get me homeless. They have an aim to get me suicidal. They have an aim to try and blame me for the crimes of all of the electric core or the InfoGuard or the fusion centers, accused of what they do, and then I can't respond to what they actually do because I'm, not the FBI overseeing all the horrors and human trafficking and everything like that. I'm getting played like it's speed of thought in no good ways. I'm getting tricked into aim to humiliate. I'm getting tricked into racial tension. I'm getting tricked into how would you humiliate a blue state Democrat the most with the synthetic telepathy mind control agenda. And I can't even think long enough to tell you guys about the black Swiss cheese hole exits at portals after death on a sustained long-term basis, because the feds and CIA want to enslave you mind, body, and soul. Um, John Lear did a video and he talked to Steve Jobs' wife after he died in his death and dying process. And Lear was speculating on it that he was getting sucked up into the moon recycling station, like the stuff that happened to his body responding to probably BCI. Um, the John Lear interview detailing what he heard from Steve Jobs' wife about how his body acted after he died should be pretty alarming for everybody on the planet. I don't want to get moon memory wipes, reincarnation, and back here for this. Life of a TI is very hard. I don't have a constitution. I don't have a bill of rights. I don't have a home protection, and synthetic telepathy is used against me for specifically against me as the TI for under the guise of national defense, but it's really to keep you like through the reincarnation systems of the moon and misled like about all of this and moments of death. And so many CIA projects that I haven't even studied have been thrown at me. I know some of them. Um, yeah, it's I'm being used and abused and traumatized into thoughts and behaviors, trying to avoid getting triggered, getting humiliated enough by these perps, only faking that they're stupid and they're like experts and all this stuff. Humiliating me like, well, why don't you go out there and do a crisis actor role? As I'm every 15 to 20 seconds trying to defend myself from synthetic telepathy, neurolinguistic programming, trying to avoid their induced psychotic response, um, seeking street theater, um, aim to humiliate or respond to their racial tensions that they're putting into me as I'm getting fascist tactics from hide the Nazi, and then who to blame in the Patsy system through the electromagnetic frequency and EMF perping, just like Kevin Christian, the Georgia targeted individual on YouTube, talks about. Um, I listened to some of Wes Penray's discussions and the perps who are monitors for me, and they're doing the translation of like he's talking about the EMF. He's talking about monitors and using the same language that is being used by Kevin Christian, a Georgia targeted individual. Um, I plan on trying to live the next 20 or 30 years, but I don't want to get Steve Jobs in that at moments of death. My mind and body is, or what could be transferred with a BCI computer interface here as a monitor consciousness separate while alive. It makes me think that consciousness does exist after body death, and I want to do everything I can to not be reincarnated at the moon like John Lear, my elder, and all this hard to know stuff talks about. So in about 20, and I want to get my headgear so I can take my mind away from the intelligence agencies or whoever's had my brain for 15 years. It's been about 5,000. I'm trying to Zugstrig a TI, and I get tricked into saying things I don't mean, feeling things I don't feel. Like I can have remote feelings put into me. My genitals can be controlled remotely, um, and I'm tortured and framed for crimes that I don't commit, so I don't even really ignore it. But all these old boys are above the law. I was declared an enemy of the state, an enemy combatant, covertly by secret courts 15 years ago, and it's never stopped being tortured more or less every day. So this is about 30 minutes. I'll put this up, but that ringing in the background is somebody jamming the baby monitors, but allegedly those trying to do NLP on me, they have to hear their own NLP because of the baby monitors. I can't verify it, but that's why I have them, so that they're scourged from the Satanism. NLP and remote torture and street theater can kill. These same gangs got an Oregonian man to like kill himself because they did street theater and made it look like a dog was talking to him. His own dog was telling him to kill himself, and it really wasn't his dog. The tech can like modify what appears to be my lips or a dog's lips on the street in 3D reality, and you think the person's really talking, even with sounds, and it's just modifying this what the surface of the dog's lips look like. The dog's lips aren't really moving. So, and similarly, I killed a dog in Redmond, Oregon that was talking too much, and I was getting NLP gang stalked from satellites and shit like that, like Kevin Christian describes. That was the real problem, not necessarily the dog. And I still live, and that my roommate there was an unaware deep state targeted individual, and we're both being tortured. There's like 1.5 million of us TI, and like there's about 5 million like Blackwater types, like allegedly like Joey Gibson, because he's not a real person allegedly, and what's going on in Oregon right now, who can't be killed where they're at, like, and remote torturing us, and then blaming us or practicing Satanism, like accusing us falsely of what they do, and then we can't even. Not a single person or entity is gonna make any justice out of these war crimes. I'm a TI. I don't even have a constitution or a bill of rights, and that's the problem. I don't have home protection. I'm tortured every day, as you can hear. This sound in the background is actually more pleasant than the neurolinguistic programming I hear every 15 to 20 seconds. I'm tortured every day.